I'm Katie Scott with Kiss and Tell Scrapbooking, and this video is kind of in response to a paper clipping roundtable episode with Noelle Hyman and Nancy Nellie. They have a free podcast, and then she's got a membership site, and I've been a member, and it's totally awesome. She makes videos about scrapbooking, and they are rehearsed unlike these videos. She shares a lot. But what I want to talk about, and I kind of wanted to respond to you, Noelle, is in the last paper clipping roundtable episode, which was paper clipping roundtable number 103, Too Precious to Scrapbook, which was in my, for real, top 10 paper clipping roundtable episodes. I have a nephew who's the same age as me who makes fun of me because we talked about podcasts, and he's a big Apple fan, and he's like, well, what kind of podcasts do you listen to? And he's like, you probably listen to podcasts about scrapbooking. And I'm like, actually, I do. So anyways, I love the paper clipping roundtable and highly recommend it. So they were talking about, you know, some photos or some stories are too precious to scrapbook, that you kind of have an emotional block, or you just want to get it so perfect that then you just don't do it. And so they were talking about weddings, and how you plan for your wedding is a lot like how you plan or how you scrapbook. And Noelle was saying how she was a kind of a hands-off bride, and I was too, totally. I let my mother like completely take over. She's like, would you like peach napkins or pink napkins? I'm like, I don't care, totally don't care. Whatever napkins float your boat. And so she was very happy to figure out what color napkins we were having, and I was very happy to not be involved in all of those minute details. But this is our wedding album, and I made this back in the day. I've been really scrapbooking all my life, and so I've been scrapbooking in the modern sense since around 2000, you know, the year 2000. But this, we got married in 1999, and my mom made this, like, this book, she made it like in the 80s, so this is like old school, okay? It's a, I don't know, she had a friend out in California who was making these and had a store that they sold these like flouncy scrapbook albums, which were really like glorified magnetic albums. But this is so I was describing to Noelle my magnetic album, and I really thought that I tore this album apart, but I actually didn't. I had albums similar to this without the flounce from my my trips to Europe in the 1980s, and I did take those down and transport them into the modern day scrapbooking. And the reason the clock is here is that time has passed since my wedding. I think we've been married for about 13 years now. So this is when I scrapbooked this I think I scrapbooked this wedding album pretty close to the time that we had our wedding in 1999. So it was before I started with the 12 by 12 and before I was worrying about acid free. And so I actually just cut up, like, this is from our invitation. We had a wedding in our backyard, and we live in Florida. I cut up magazines, and I cut up Martha Stewart wedding magazines. You know, some of these pages have not a lot on them, and then some of them are a little bit more embellished. So some of these just look like regular old, oh, slow down. Got my husband in the background. Slow down. Okay. So there we go. So you can see just random stickers. So maybe I was starting to troll the aisles of Joann's and Michael's. Because it looks like some of these like are die cuts. But this was my old album, and I think I will actually I'm not going back, and I'm not going to. Yeah, they don't really care about what. Stop backseat driving, mister. Yeah, married 13 years now. So here we go. This is that's a little scrapbooky there. So that's our honeymoon. So you can see this is like old school scrapbooking. Some of the pages have some, here you go. Here's my old scrapbook, okay? But what I did was I took my wedding photos, and I actually, with the photographer for our wedding, I got the negatives. And so I reprinted all of my wedding photos. I guess I left this one intact. I really thought that I had torn it down, but I didn't. I'll show you in another video how I did that with my travel albums. But I have made a scrapbook album now that is about, not specifically the wedding, but it's about my relationship with my husband. And this is all, so I include like the anniversaries. These are all pages that are like, hold on, like typical scrapbook pages of modern scrapbooks. Okay, and these 2 pages were made for an Ella Publishing series. Stacy Julian had written a book called, for Ella Publishing, called, can you not stand there? Oh, he's just in the corner of my eye, and I just kept looking at him, and he keeps giving me directions. Sorry. Anyways, this is this is very appropriate because it's scientific proof of how to improve your relationships. Stacy Julian wrote a book for Ella Publishing called Secrets, or like 30 Secrets of Happy Scrapbookers, and it was based on a book a happiness book by the author David Niven, who wrote a book about, 100 simple secrets for being happy. So I got this book called 100 Simple Secrets for Great Relationships. Obviously, I need some improvement on my communication techniques, but we know that about each other. But it was, don't bring your job home with you. Foundations are created from the beginning. Don't wait to start moving in the right direction. So like start now. You make your own history. A relationship requires 2 to make things work. It's the little things that matter the most. So there's lots of different tips in this book. And then I took these tips and kind of made pages about like scientific proof of why having friendships will improve your marriage, or why it's good to have like specific times to spend with your husband, or why it's good to laugh. And so not all of these, this is what I would consider my modern scrapbook about my husband and my relationship, and even the wedding. So it's mixed, I've got anniversary pages in there. There's a wedding page. And so there are some pictures in here, just select pictures. So here's one that, incorporates his love of music. And this is from our wedding day. And then this is another from the wedding. So the wedding pictures are just kind of mixed in there. Also stories about how we met, stories about our anniversaries, stories about, why we got married on the day that we did, things like that. Kind of how I melded the old style wedding scrapbook with the new. And another way to do the new version of a scrapbook is to just do a photo album scrapbook. And this I did through Shutterfly, and I gave it to him one year as as a Valentine's Day present. And I included wedding photos. I also included other photos. But in this one, I just took a picture, and then I wrote a big long letter to him. And then the rest of the book doesn't have a whole lot of journaling, but it has some. Like here's a wedding page. So there's where I've updated it to kind of a more modern looking, it doesn't look like I have ripped up Martha Stewart's magazine and put it in my magnetic album. So it looks a little more modern and streamlined. So there you go. If you are not familiar with the Paper Clipping Roundtable, I highly recommend it. I will leave a link on my blog along with this post. My blog is Kiss and Tell Scrapbooking at typepad.com, and I am Katie Scott, and that is all.